Good morning, Virgo. Uh, Welcome back to Virgo. Come in. Wherever you're listening from, whatever the day has looked like, whatever you've been carrying into this moment, put it down just for a little while. This one deserves your full attention. Let's just say it out loud without softening it or qualifying it or immediately wrapping it in 17 layers of maybe and possibly and we'll see. What might be building around you right now in this connection, in this dynamic, in the specific energy between you and this person, um, is the kind of thing people write about. The kind of thing that when other people catch a glimpse of it, the way you two move around each other, the specific frequency of your dynamic, the almost visible charge in the space between you does something to them. Something that sits uncomfortably close to envy, even in people who'd never admit it. Uh, because what might be happening here isn't ordinary. And on some level, underneath whatever uncertainty or caution or careful management of your own hope you've been doing, you already know that. But let's not just sit in the feeling of it. Let's understand it. Um, because you deserve more than the rush of good news. You deserve to actually comprehend what's happening, why it's happening, and what it might require from you to receive it without sabotaging it. Because the not sabotaging might be where the real work is. So, um, let's start with the intensity because that's the word that keeps coming intense. And intensity in a connection is one of those things that gets misread constantly. It gets romanticized when it should be understood. It gets feared when it should be welcomed. It gets confused with instability when it's actually just depth. Real, undiluted, nowhere to hide depth. And depth is what this might be. Not the intensity of chaos, not the kind that burns hot and leaves damage, but the intensity of two people who are genuinely, specifically, particularly drawn to each other in a way that doesn't fully make sense through logic alone. Um, the kind where you finish a conversation and feel more awake than you did before it started, where something about their presence makes the ordinary things slightly more vivid, where you catch yourself mid thought about something completely unrelated and realize, oh, they've been in the background of my mind this entire time. That's not infatuation. Infatuation is loud and surface level and tends to dissolve on contact with reality. What this might be is quieter underneath and louder in the nervous system, the kind of pull that deepens rather than fades when you actually get close. When the real person shows up and is somehow more compelling than the idea of them was. That's rare. That's worth paying attention to. And they might be feeling all of this, possibly more of it than they've allowed themselves to say out loud. Because here's what happens when someone falls genuinely, seriously, this is different in love with another person. They get quiet about it before they get loud. They hold it close. They turn it over. They get almost careful with it, the way you get careful with something that matters so much that careless handling feels genuinely dangerous. And that carefulness can look from the outside like restraint, like they're holding back, when actually what they're doing is trying to figure out how to carry something this size without dropping it. Uh, does that sound familiar? Um, have you noticed a particular quality in how they handle you? Something that feels almost deliberate, almost considered, like they're paying a specific kind of attention that goes beyond casual interest. The way they remember things you mentioned once in passing, the way their focus on you has a particular texture, concentrated, almost warm in its precision, the way they show up in small ways that don't make sense unless the person doing them cares significantly. Those aren't accidents. Um, those are the behavior of someone who has already arrived somewhere emotionally and is now navigating the complex process of figuring out how to express it without overwhelming you, without making themselves too vulnerable too fast, without misreading where you are and getting it catastrophically wrong. They're being careful because they care. And caring this much for some people is genuinely new territory. This reflection invites you to consider, when you're around this person, what version of yourself shows up, not the version you perform when you're trying to make an impression, the version that arrives without being summoned, the one that comes out when your guard isn't fully operational, um, the one that says things you didn't plan to say and means them, um, the one that laughs differently, that's quieter in some moments and louder in others, that feels somehow more like yourself than you do in most other contexts. Because that version, the one that shows up without effort, that's the one they're in love with. Um, and knowing that might change how you understand what they're responding to. Now let's talk about the jealousy piece, because that's the part of this title that might feel slightly uncomfortable. Like it's too bold, too confident, too much like tempting fate to say out loud. Um, and I want to look at why it feels that way. Because the discomfort with being seen as someone who has something enviable, who is in the kind of relationship that makes people look twice, that carries a quality other people recognize and respond to, that discomfort is worth examining, um, because it often isn't really about the relationship at all. It's about an old belief, possibly quite old, possibly installed long before this connection existed, um, that says something like, things this good don't happen to me. Or if I claim it too confidently, it will disappear. Or I don't want to be the person who thinks they have something special only to discover they were wrong. Those beliefs, reasonable as they might feel, earned as they might be, can function as a ceiling on what you allow yourself to receive. They make you minimize what's real in the interest of protecting yourself from eventual disappointment. They make you preemptively shrink the story before anyone else has a chance to challenge it. And in doing so quietly, without announcement, they can actually limit the size of what develops because what you believe you have and what you're willing to claim tends to shape how you move within it. Uh, so let's try something different today. Let's try claiming it. Um, Not arrogantly, not in the performed, look at us way that's more about the audience than the connection, but internally, in the privacy of your own belief system. Um, Let yourself believe, just as an experiment, just for the duration of this, that what's happening between you and this person is genuinely extraordinary, that the intensity is real, that the love is real, that the specific way you two fit together is rare enough that, yes, people who catch a glimpse of it might feel something about it. What changes when you let yourself believe that? Notice it. Because the answer to that question might tell you exactly where your ceiling is and what it would take to raise it. Because the relationship that makes everyone jealous, let's be clear about what that actually looks like from the inside. It doesn't look like performance. It doesn't look like a carefully curated public presentation of togetherness designed to make onlookers feel something. Um, those connections read as exactly what they are, stagecraft. And people can smell stagecraft from across a room. What actually produces envy in observers, the real kind, the involuntary kind that people feel before they've consciously processed it, is authenticity at a frequency most people have stopped believing is available to them. It's two people who are genuinely, visibly at ease in each other's presence in a way that doesn't require management, who clearly see each other, not the performed version, the real one, and choose each other anyway, who make each other better, not through pressure, but through the simple, powerful act of being a witness that the other person trusts completely. Uh, that's what's possibly building here. Not the Instagram version, the real version. The one that doesn't need a filter because it holds up in the unguarded moments, in the ordinary Tuesday mornings, and the difficult conversations, and the moments where one of you is tired or scared or not your best self, and the connection doesn't flinch. That kind of connection is what people are actually responding to when they feel that particular twinge, not the highlight, the foundation. This reflection invites you to consider, what would you need to believe about yourself to fully receive a love this size? Not to manage it, not to survive it, to actually inhabit it, to live inside it fully without waiting for it to be taken away, without shrinking yourself to make it feel less overwhelming, without finding reasons why it probably won't last before it's had a real chance to show you what it can become. Uh, what belief about your own worth would need to be in place for you to just let this be yours? Because the relationship is only partly about them, their feelings, their investment, their love, as real and as significant as that might be. Can only build something extraordinary if they're met with an equal willingness on your end to be fully present in it. Not grateful and slightly disbelieving, not lucky and therefore careful, but present, equal. Operating from the knowledge that you bring something to this that is worth exactly as much as what they're bringing. And what you bring, uh, let's actually name it, because naming it matters, um, is the quality of your attention, the depth of what you're capable of feeling, the specific way you show up for people you care about fully without the half presence that characterizes so much of modern connection. The fact that when you're in, you're genuinely in, not performing in, not strategically in, but actually committed at a level that's becoming increasingly rare. Um, the realness of your interior world, the complexity of how you think and feel and process, that is not a burden to the right person. That is the exact thing that makes the right person feel less alone in their own complexity. You bring depth to meet their depth. You bring realness to meet their realness. You bring a quality of presence that, when they experience it, possibly makes previous connections feel like they were missing something essential. Not because those connections were bad, but because this one has a specific ingredient that changes the baseline of what feels possible. And that ingredient is you. Um, Specifically you. Not a better version, not a more healed version, not a version that has resolved every wound and answered every question and arrived at perfect clarity about who they are. This version, the current one, the one that's still figuring some things out, but is also simultaneously already extraordinary in the ways that matter most for this particular connection. Let that land. Seriously, don't rush past it. Now let's talk about what you might actually do with all of this. Because energy without direction eventually dissipates, and what's building here deserves intentional tending. Uh, the first thing, and it might be the simplest and the hardest simultaneously, is to stop managing the intensity down. Because there's a tendency, when something feels this significant, when the feeling is this large, to immediately begin moderating it, to play it cool in moments that actually call for warmth, to withhold expressions of genuine feeling because expressing them would make you too visible, too known, too susceptible to the particular vulnerability of having let someone see how much you care. Um, but intensity, when it's real, needs room to breathe. It needs moments of genuine expression, not performed expression, not strategic vulnerability calculated to produce a specific response. The real thing, the unmanaged thing. Um, the moment where you stop calculating and just say it, feel it, let it be visible. Because those moments are the ones that deepen a connection from something that might be extraordinary into something that is. The second thing, protect the connection without suffocating it. Um, because something, this intense something that might produce that particular quality of attention in observers will attract opinions, well meaning ones and less well meaning ones. People who want to analyze it, people who want to warn you, people who want to bond with you over shared skepticism about whether something this good can possibly be sustainable. And some of those voices will be people you love and trust. Uh, be selective about what you let in, not in a closed, defensive, nothing can touch us way, but in the way of someone who understands that a connection finding its footing is slightly fragile, not because it isn't real, but because real things in early stages need some shelter from the weight of other people's projections. Give it room to establish itself on its own terms before you expose it to everyone else's terms. Let it become solid enough to hold its own before it has to hold the weight of outside commentary. And the third thing, stay curious about them, because the connections that sustain that initial intensity and convert it into something that deepens rather than dims over time, um, are the ones where both people remain genuinely actively curious about each other, not curious in the early stage, everything is new way that doesn't require effort, but the sustained kind, the kind that asks questions beyond the obvious ones, that finds the person genuinely interesting, not just attractive, not just familiar, but interesting in a way that doesn't require novelty because it's rooted in actual depth. Uh, Stay curious about who they're becoming, not just who they are right now, who they're in the process of becoming, what they're working through, what they're moving toward, what they're afraid of that they haven't said yet. Because staying curious at that level, the level of someone's unfolding rather than just their current presentation, um, is what keeps a connection alive in the way that makes people on the outside of it feel something when they witness it. Because what makes a relationship genuinely enviable, not in the superficial sense, but in the real sense, is not its aesthetics, not its compatibility on paper, not the way it photographs. Um, it's the quality of attention two people give each other over time. Um, the fact that they're still actually looking at each other, not through each other, not past each other, but at each other with genuine interest and genuine warmth, and the specific tenderness that comes from knowing someone well enough to see their complexity and choosing them anyway. That is what might be building here. Um, that is what they might be feeling toward you right now. Um, that specific, deliberate, eyes open choice of you. Not the idea of you, not the convenient version of you, the actual, full, complicated, extraordinary you. And you, uh, the actual, full, complicated, extraordinary you, are allowed to receive that. Um, Fully, without the discount, without the preemptive bracing, without the quiet voice that says this is too good and good things don't last and maybe I should be careful. You are allowed to just uh, be in this, let it be real. Let it be significant. Let it be the kind of thing that when you look back on this period of your life, you recognize as the moment something genuinely changed. Not because the connection was perfect, uh, but because it was real, and real tended with intention and honesty and the willingness to be fully seen. is the only thing that produces the kind of love that actually lasts. Uh, the kind that makes people feel something when they catch a glimpse of it. Not because you're performing it for them, but because something that real at that depth with that quality of mutual recognition um, has a frequency that's simply visible, that radiates without trying, that makes the room feel slightly different when you're both in it. That's what this might be. That's what you might be standing at the edge of. Uh, Step in um, fully, without apology, without the managed version of yourself standing guard at the door. The power is yours. It always has been. Let this be the love that surprises you, the one you didn't fully let yourself see coming, um, and the one you choose every day to stay present for. Because presence, real, unguarded, this person has my full attention presence, is the only thing that converts something intense into something lasting. And lasting, um, built on a foundation, this real is exactly what this might be becoming. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Tell me in the comments, what is it about this person that makes you feel more like yourself? I want the specific answer, not the general one. Drop it below. And has anyone in your life already noticed something different about you since this connection entered it? Tell me what they said. Take care of yourself. You deserve every bit of what's coming. Until next time.